Thank you, everyone. A very good evening. And it's really an honor to be here in this incredible platform. And I'd like to really start by expressing my deep, heartfelt gratitude to the organizers and the university, the entire team, which has put together this amazing, incredible event. And also, thank you for everyone who's really taken out time to be here. Thank you for your presence. In our world, there has been a long perceived divide between the for-profit and the not-profit sectors. Businesses have actually always been seen as engines for profit driven by financial success, and nonprofits have been seen as moral forces which are driven by social impact. And this has actually fostered a belief that for-profits and nonprofits cannot coexist. It's like a zero-sum game. And that means one has to be sacrificed for the other. And that's exactly what I want to really challenge today, the notion of merging profits with purpose. In my years of career, I've navigated both in the corporate world and in the nonprofit social impact space, really shifting focus from driving profits and margins to really creating social impact. And I've had the power of change. I've really experienced it firsthand. And I really want to talk about today the transformative opportunity that business models have to really align profits and purpose together. Now, let me start. This is the dichotomy that we are trying to break today. And I'm going to start talking about the power of movement. Any movement leads to change, and anything which is change can lead to an incredible movement. And I'm going to start sharing a story, the Araku story. Araku it's just not a business for profit, right? It was started in the very highlands, the Araku highlands of Andhra Pradesh, where a group of local communities, farmers, actually came together to create something so incredible, something so special. They were India's first certified homegrown coffee. And that was something where the profits were actually plowed back to the community. Araku is just not a business for profit. It's a social enterprise driven by profit, but really looking at community in terms of bringing up the community, their livelihood. So, what did Araku really do differently? Araku actually followed something called the Arakunomics model. They did A, B, C, D, G, E, E, F, G. Sorry, I got my letters wrong. I left it, years back I learned it. Yeah. So they kind of looked through the A to G model, and what they did was, they did two very important things. One, the profits didn't stay with the company. They actually went back to the farmers, transforming farmers into coffee estate owners. And second, they really, they provided nutrient-rich compost. They did something called regenerative farming, which was about restoring the land, the soil. So they provided the farmers with compost, nutrient-rich compost, which actually helped create these amazing coffee cherries, which had the most amazing flavor. And what did this A, B, C, D, E, F, G stand for? First, they focused on agriculture, which was the local livelihood there. Second was they focused on biodiversity. They focused on the land restoration. C was they basically looked at compost, that is indigenous compost that went into the soil and created these aroma-rich coffee cherries. D, the decision making in the entire company was decentralized. E, created entrepreneurs out of farmers. F, it worked towards upliftment of the families of the local geography. And last, G, what did it do? The first Araku coffee actually was sold. It connected the local to the global market, that is Paris. So that's where the beans were really sold. And if you really look at it, when I say it's a social enterprise, because it is run by the community for the community, and therefore really improving the livelihood and the living conditions of everyone there, transforming the community as a whole. So what does it really say? Profitability? Absolutely, that's the driving force. But yes, with a purpose. And they were driven by purpose. And like Araku, there are many such social enterprises which are actually both for-profit and non-profit, but really powered and propelled by one common theme, which is community and the purpose. Now let's just shift gears. The power of corporate good. And I think in few years, many of you probably will be a part of that world, right? So today, actually, the businesses have actually changed the way they are really operating. It's not simply looking at profits, but they're also trying to embrace sustainability. We had the last speaker really talk about that. Looking at profitable businesses, looking at sustainability. One of the biggest things that corporates are driven by today is ESG, that is environment, social, and governance. And this is just a metrics of really measuring how companies are looking at their sustainability quotient, how they measure, and they are embracing sustainability. Most of you would be using cosmetics, some form or the other, right? When did you start thinking that I should really pick up a brand which is actually cruelty-free, right? I think it just happened. And Body Shop, one of the pioneers of really looking at going cruelty-free cosmetics, they really brought in ethical sourcing, using high-quality ingredients from farmers and artisans across the globe and through their community fair trade practice. Apple, for example, they have this big, bold goal of going carbon neutral by 2030, right? And this year alone, they have actually saved about 18.5 million tons through their clean supplier energy chain program. Now, what's really happening? What is this shift? Isn't this about aligning profits and purpose together? So, what is important is for us to understand that what do we really mean by embracing sustainability? And is it just about social organizations, or it is just about other organizations which are nonprofits and looking at scale? And these are just big names. I can talk about a million of organizations across the globe, and both, globally, whether they are Indian, global, multinational, everyone's really talking about sustainability. And of course, 2030, I'm sure you all know, the reason is run up to the SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. What is it all about? It is about aligning, looking at a better world, aligning profits and purpose together, right? And, we heard recycle, reduce, recycle, reuse and recycle. And I think all the organizations are somewhere looking at that. We go into a hotel and we actually see people using glass bottles instead of plastic. There's a change. They are okay to you have RO water, right? There is a need for everyone to really be more conscious of the resources that they are really using. We spoke about the social enterprises, and I'm just going to, shift that. So there is a paradigm shift that you're really thinking, you've seen. We spoke about the social enterprise. We spoke about the large businesses. And now I'm going to talk about when we are looking at this massive exponential change in terms of impact at scale, how does that really happen? And that's where organizations like Perkins, which really come in as an organization between the large corporate houses and the last mile reach, and they are the ones they kind of really connect. And what is the difference? The only thing that we do is we collaborate. We collaborate with large corporate houses, and we have a network of partners who can actually reach the last mile. Just about a little bit about Perkins. Perkins is a 200-year-old organization. We started in 1829. You all heard of Helen Keller and Anne Sullivan? Well, both of them were graduates from the Perkins School for the Blind. That's, the picture that you see on the, on right behind me, these are 10 million each of the 24 smiles that you see on. They represent 240 million children across the globe with disability. They are often marginalized, excluded, and many a times invisible. And that you see, there is a girl, Julie, that you see, one of the pictures on the screen is Julie. She's the third picture in the second row. And I'm going to come back to Julie's story just in a minute. So what do you think what we are trying to do? We are trying to create quality and accessible education for every child with disability. So there is SDG 4, quality education. And I think if we were to look at 240 million children, standalone in India, we have 8 million children. If we were to reach, how do we really do that? And that's where profit and purpose kind of really align themselves. You see the intersectionality. What is the plus sign that you see on the screen? The plus sign is the amplified impact, the impact that happens exponentially when we are talking about working at scale, solving a very complex and a granular issue, right? And this was only possible because corporates actually came together and we leveraged their platform, their thinking of the corporate good that actually came together to create this impact. This is the picture of Julie, right? And I want to just share the story of Julie. Julie, anybody's heard of this place called Kakori in Uttar Pradesh? It's a tiny little village in Uttar Pradesh. And Julie comes from there. This is a picture of Julie when she was about 8 years. For 8 years of her life, she had never been outside her home. She was bound to home with her primary caregiver, which is her mother. And simply because she had severe disability, she had cerebral palsy with low vision, and she had never been outside her home. Imagine life for 8 years. Until a community program kind of really changed her life, and a corporate which actually helped an assistive device, a wheelchair that was provided to her, which transformed her life. Cut to today. Julie is today about 11 or 12 years old. She's in school. Getting Julie into the classroom was a game changer for us. And that only happened when profit and purposes aligned itself. On difficult days, there are more questions than answers, but Julie's story reminds us that the work that we do matters. Somewhere a life is mended, faith and hope is restored, and ambitions flourish. And I just want all of us to really take a moment of the journey that I just shared, that how we actually need to really think deeper and understand how profits and purposes really work together. And this is something we are trying to solve. It's not an overnight journey. The road is, long, but I think we are on the path. And I want to leave you all with this little thought. It took me years. It took me many, many years to take the leap of faith and really bridge the gap between intent and impact, bridging profit and purpose. But all of you are young change makers, future leaders. Can you be that wheelchair that can empower a Julie somewhere, and therefore really creating intentional lives for yourself and impacting others? Thank you so very much, Prabhu.